It had just stopped raining, and the sky was clear. It was September, the early autumn, and the weather was neither cold nor hot, which was perfect for sleeping. When the school bell rang, Emily had just woken up. Her desk mate whispered, "There's a new transfer student this semester." Emily had just woken up not long ago. With sleepy eyes, she didn't say anything. She pulled her arm back and took out a novel from her desk drawer. Two boys were standing at the door. The halo around them seemed to be blurred. Looking over, the boy standing on the platform was dark-skinned. He was introducing himself, saying a common name like Tom or Jack. Emily was a bit bored. Her fingertips were pressing on the book cover. She opened it and read a few lines with an indifferent expression. The teacher turned around and said, "It's your turn." The boy, who was standing by the door with a black backpack slung over his shoulder and looking out of the window, turned his head when he heard this. Emily's fingers, which were on the pages of the book, stopped. They bent slightly and then retracted. The sun moved from behind the clouds. The smell of water vapor that hadn't dissipated and the fragrance of the September plants filled the air. "Alex." His voice was soft and brief. The halo fell on his face. His skin was fair and clean. It was indescribable. Even now, after imagining his face 100, 1,000, or 10,000 times in her heart, she still couldn't find the right words to describe it. 9 years had passed, and Emily still remembered the first time she saw Alex. Emily sat behind him for 2 weeks. They didn't say a word to each other. Emily was a bit of a loner. At school, she always finished her homework in advance. Then, she would casually read all kinds of books, from modern novels to classical literature, from foreign masterpieces to cheap horror stories sold on the street. She could read the pornographic lines written in classical Chinese expressionlessly and would burst out laughing at a not-so-funny joke. She was the top student in the class, a loner, a bit of an oddball, and always immersed in her own world. That was Emily's image in this world. Their first conversation took place in the 3rd week of the first semester of 8th grade, during a regular school physical examination. "I'm taller than you," she said, pinching the thin physical examination form without looking up at him. Alex was a bit surprised when she realized his gaze was on her. Her cheeks suddenly burned with embarrassment. Emily stubbornly added, "And I'm heavier, too." She had a good memory and remembered the 4 very similar numbers she saw at a glance. "Yeah," he replied with just one word. The corners of his mouth curved slightly. His eyes were gentle, and there was a faint smile in his voice. Suddenly, Emily's heart started pounding. Her ears burned hot, and she bit her lip hard. She lowered her head, trying her best to focus on the book page, but her heart felt like a gust of wind had blown through it. She was so embarrassed that her ears turned bright red. She wanted to run, to jump, or to hide herself in a corner, not to be seen by anyone. It was September, the early autumn, in a small-town junior high school. That year, Emily was 13. And Alex was 13, too. Alex sat in the 3rd row, in front of Emily. "Hand in your homework." Emily stood up and walked over. Her voice calmed. A group of noisy boys immediately fell silent and looked at each other. Someone let out a soft, "Oh." And then there was the rustling sound of them looking for their homework. Alex took out his math workbook from his desk drawer. She lowered her head, trying to avoid touching his fingertips. His handwriting was beautiful. On the cover of the workbook, in black pen, were the words, "Alex," written in a slightly slanted and slender style. The A was especially well written. Emily pursed her lips and watched as his every stroke. Her hand was a bit shaky. When she saw someone coming, she immediately hid his workbook at the bottom. She was the math class representative. Every day, in the morning and evening, she would talk to him, with a fixed number of words and at a fixed time. If there was no math homework that day, they wouldn't talk. They would be silent for a day, a month, or even half a year. Alex wasn't a talkative person either. Their interactions were limited to collecting and distributing homework and test papers. Emily's grades were outstanding. Every time the teacher announced that she was the first in the class, she wouldn't look at anyone. Instead, she would stare at the back of Alex's head. But when he casually looked back, she would quickly look away. After school, "Emily is first again," a boy said casually. Emily, caught in the crowd, heard this and her body stiffened. Her heart was pounding. Alex's voice was calm. "Yeah. She's amazing." He had a strange sense of detachment, even though he was standing in the crowd. He seemed to be apart from it. When he spoke or did things, he was casual yet reserved and gentle. Many years later, Emily thought that it was indifference. In fact, they were similar people, but she was sharp-edged, while he was gentle and hid his true feelings well. Emily's heart was like a sail filled with wind. The hem of her school uniform was blown up. She buried her head and ran in the opposite direction. Her school bag slapped her legs and waist with each step. He often wore black clothes and wasn't good at dealing with girls. During PE class, he would occasionally play basketball with the boys on the playground. When he smiled, his eyes and eyebrows were very charming. But he rarely smiled. She remembered the faint smile on Alex's face when she first talked to him. She would often recall and savor it. But she never saw that smile again. She twirled her pen while doing her homework and would occasionally stare out of the window, lost in thought. Why did he smile at her like that back then? The math teacher liked Emily very much and often asked her to go to the blackboard to solve math problems. When the teacher assigned new lesson exercises, there was an equation application problem. Only Emily got a different answer. Her desk mate gently advised, "Emily, everyone else got this answer. Maybe you should change your method." Emily bit her lip and said, "No." She shook her head slightly. Alex suddenly turned around and said, "I got the same answer as Emily." As if feeling that he wasn't clear enough, he added, "The same as Emily's." His gentle and soft voice called her name. Emily's hand, holding the pen, was covered in a thin layer of sweat. She put down the pen and mechanically wrote numbers on the draft paper. She pursed her lips and didn't say anything else. Everyone just thought she was strange and didn't think much of it. When the head teacher asked Alex to go to the office, Emily happened to be going there to hand in her homework. They got up at the same time and accidentally walked side by side. They walked out of the door together. Emily slightly raised her face and secretly glanced at Alex. She saw his Adam's apple, which was beginning to show clear lines that he was growing faster than her. In less than a year, she was already half a head shorter than him. When she peeked at him, she had to look up slightly. She suddenly remembered the first words she said to him when they first met. "I'm taller than you. And I'm heavier, too." Her face immediately turned bright red. A year later, as a young girl in her early teens, she gradually realized that being taller and heavier than him wasn't something to be proud of, even though it was impossible now. Whenever she thought about it, she still felt extremely embarrassed. In the third year of junior high school, at the age of 14, the girl's body had developed curves. Every day, her chest was tender and hurt when touched. Her mother bought her various pure cotton bras to protect her gently. She became slender, with a curvy figure. Her curves were becoming more and more obvious. Emily was ashamed to show her changes to the world. She wore a large school uniform, hiding herself behind it. She zipped it up to her chin. Regardless of the season. One boy chased another out of the classroom, playing and fighting. When Emily walked out of the classroom, the boy didn't notice her. His elbow hit Emily hard, right on her chest. In an instant, Emily was in so much pain that she couldn't speak. Her face turned pale, and tears welled up in her eyes. The boy, seeing that it was Emily, looked a bit embarrassed but didn't apologize. He just pretended nothing had happened and tried to run away. Alex, who was about to enter the classroom, stopped. "You hit someone," he said, for the first time. There was no smile on his face. The boy said, "Oh," and tried to leave. Alex grabbed his wrist and said, "Apologize to her." His voice was deep, and his face was serious. His black eyes stared intently at the boy. Emily crouched on the ground, too painful to speak. She half hugged her arms, tightly protecting her chest. "Sorry." The boy was intimidated by Alex's imposing manner and stammered out an apology before running away in embarrassment. Alex crouched down beside her and asked, "Are you okay?" Emily looked up, her eyes wet with tears. Alex was a bit stunned. In his impression, Emily was stubborn and outstanding, like a sharp blade, keeping people at a distance. This was the first time he saw her like this, vulnerable, soft, and even giving the impression that she needed to be taken care of. "Where did he hit you? Does it still hurt?" he asked hesitantly. Emily's face turned bright. It was an embarrassing place to talk about. She bit her lip hard and slowly got up from the ground. The girl was unsteady on her feet. The place where she was hit on her chest was still throbbing with pain, making her face pale and sweat break out on her forehead. He stood very close, seeming to hesitate whether to reach out and help her. I'm fine, she said weakly. Thank you. She straightened her back and walked away from him. Step by step, Alex stood there, and his eyes regained their usual gentle and distant look. As long as you're okay. I hope he can completely forget that embarrassing moment. This thought was quickly crossed out. Maybe it's okay if he remembers a little bit. He's such a gentle person. Even to someone like me who's not very likable. He's as gentle as the breeze. Emily's diary. In their junior high school, after the high school entrance exam, most students would lose the opportunity to continue their studies and start working early. Among the remaining students, most would go to a private high school or a vocational school. Only the top 50 students in the school, with the best grades, had the chance to go to the best public high school in the city in the second semester of the third year of junior high school. Exams became more and more frequent. Alex's grades were good. Neither too high nor too low. He could rank in the top 5 in the class. And his best result was second. Right behind Emily, their names were always close on the grade list. Emily took a deep breath and stuffed the wrinkled report card into her desk drawer. Her palms were sweating, but it was nothing compared to the sweat on her back. Alex, after the seat adjustment this time, he sat behind Emily again. There was just one seat distance between them. Math was Emily's favorite and best subject. However, with his gaze behind her, she was distracted for the first time. Alex had a quiet personality, which was rare among boys of his age. He wasn't as showy as Emily. He was good at playing basketball, had excellent grades, and a gentle personality. He was very popular among boys, but Emily thought that wasn't the real him, that he was like a clear and calm pool of water. Unfathomable. When you reached out to touch it, you could only feel the coldness without any warmth. Alex didn't get close to girls that he talked very little. Emily secretly counted that, apart from necessary communication. Alex had almost no contact with girls. It was those more outgoing and flamboyant boys who could attract the little girls during puberty. Emily slowly withdrew her gaze from the reflection of the glass. She saw Alex's handsome side face. Concentrating on solving a physics problem, she had already solved that problem using the same method as him. A faint smile appeared on Emily's lips. In the second semester of the third year of junior high school, a girl named Lily transferred to the class through connections. It was said that she came from an outside vocational school. When she first appeared in the class, she caused a small stir. Lily had upward slanting phoenix eyes. She didn't wear the school uniform. Her figure was curvy, with black hair and red lips. She was clearly wearing makeup. When she smiled, the corners of her eyes curved, and her eyes seemed to have hooks. When her gaze swept over, most of the boys blushed and stared, compared with her. The girl sitting below seemed extremely plain. She was arranged to sit in the 5th row, in the same row as Alex, with only one seat between them. Since she sat down, a feeling of uneasiness had welled up in Emily's heart. Lily's deskmate was an ordinary boy. Ordinary in every aspect: height, appearance, personality, and grades. Lily sat in that corner full of boys, and she was the center of attention. Enjoying herself, Emily didn't want to care. She was naturally cold-hearted and never cared about things that had nothing to do with her. There was a huge gap between Lily's social circle and hers, like the distance between the equator and the South Pole. But this time, she took several deep breaths. For the first time, she couldn't focus on her favorite novel. She stared at the book page for a long time. And finally, she turned around and secretly looked at Lily's seat in the back row. Alex seemed to have his usual routine. She pursed her lips. It was as if something in her heart had been let go. She turned back and continued doing her own things, until the second week, after the noon self-study class ended. Emily had just woken up, feeling groggy and thirsty. She was unscrewing the cup lid to drink water when she heard a sweet voice. "What's your name?" The boy's voice was a bit hoarse just after waking up, with a rare sense of laziness. "Alex." "Oh." Lily tilted her head and looked at him with a smile. The boy's face was handsome. The usual gentle and faint smile on his face was gone because he had just woken up, making him look a bit cold. Alex didn't say much. He picked up his water bottle and left the classroom. When he came back, there were water droplets rolling down his fair face. He must have splashed water on his face. It was midsummer, and the weather was hot. Emily pursed her lips tightly. Her fingers gripped the book page as she watched him walk back to his seat step by step. The water droplets rolled down his cheeks. He had grown taller and more mature, with the sharp lines of a young man's face. The water droplets rolled from the white collar of his school uniform and disappeared into his fair skin. Lily didn't make way for him. Alex stood in front of her, looking down at her without saying a word. Beg me. She blinked, her red lips curved, and her eyes full of smiles. She looked up at the young man in front of her. Then I'll let you in. Her voice was sweet. Like honey. It was a very familiar act of coquetry. Emily was sitting in the front row. Her back felt like it was on fire. She didn't turn around to look, but her hearing seemed to be magnified infinitely. Alex didn't say anything. Move. After a long time, the boy said in a low voice, without showing any emotion. When Emily turned around, she saw his slender jawline. His thin lips were pursed, and she couldn't read his emotions. This was the first time she saw such an expression on Alex's face. Lily didn't mind. Next time, say something nicer. She got up to let Alex in. As he passed by her, she leaned closer and said something with a smile in her voice. It was like the beginning of a campus love story, a story about a gentle and handsome top student and a beautiful and charming bad girl, and she was just a minor character passing by, without a single line. She was only mentioned casually as the first-place student when looking at the grade list. Emily closed her diary, her mood hitting rock bottom. The high school entrance exam was getting closer. Emily caught a summer flu. She slept at home for a whole morning. Her mother called the head teacher to ask for leave. In the afternoon, after her fever subsided, she gritted her teeth, got up, packed her school bag, and quietly went out to catch the bus to school. When she entered the classroom, the lunch break had just ended. Most people were still asleep, and the old-fashioned electric fan was creaking. Emily walked towards her seat with her school bag on her back. There was someone sitting in her seat. Emily stood still, her mood complicated. The boy was asleep. Even when she walked up to him, he didn't wake up. His black hair fell over his eyes, and his long and thick eyelashes drooped. He was sleeping quietly, sitting in her chair with his slender right hand on her desk. There was a small scratch on the desk, which she had accidentally left when sharpening her pencil a few weeks ago. Alex frowned in his sleep, as if he felt her gaze. His eyelashes fluttered, and he opened his eyes. Sorry, he said when he saw Emily. He apologized, but his tone was calm. He stood up and glanced at his seat. Next to it, Lily was sound asleep. She had swapped seats with the boy beside her at some point and was now sitting next to Alex's seat. Their eyes met, but neither of them said a word. Emily, however, felt a sudden sense of relief. It was as if she was a sail filled with wind, like the breeze in March, the rain in April, and the sunshine and flying flowers in May. And the midsummer. The high school entrance exam arrived as scheduled. Emily performed normally. Alex sat one seat away from her. Neither more nor less. Emily was extremely grateful for the 3 extra points she got compared to the person behind her. The 2 key classes of the new grade in the affiliated high school took in all the top 50 students in the city. They used an alternating system. The first-ranked student went to Class 1, the second-ranked to Class 2, the third-ranked back to Class 1, and so on until all 50 students were placed. After the high school entrance exam, there came a long 2-month summer vacation. Emily's parents took her on a 1-month trip. When they got home, Emily bought high school textbooks and basically finished reading the first part, with few social interactions. During the 2-month stay at home, apart from studying, she just read books quietly. It was as if she had been cut off from the world for 2 months. Then, in September, it was time for high school registration. The new school uniforms of the affiliated high school had arrived. They were black and white. When Emily put it on, it was a bit big. She tidied herself up and looked at herself in the mirror. With a ponytail, the collar of her school uniform was clean, and her forehead was smooth and beautiful, but her face was still as expressionless as ever. With her eyes downcast, making it hard to tell what she was thinking, she was the kind of person who could easily be overlooked in a crowd. With no presence at all, however, she changed her hair tie. The light pink one looked like a falling flower against her black and shiny hair. Emily arrived late. Half of the classmates were already in the classroom, making a lot of noise. Emily hesitated at the door for a moment, but finally stepped in. She almost bumped into a tall boy who was walking out. Sorry. Emily stood still, before she could say more. She suddenly recognized his face and froze. She looked up at him, staring blankly. It had only been 2 months since they last saw each other. Emily suddenly remembered that 2 years ago, when they first met, she had said, "I'm taller than you." Now, After 2 years, when their eyes met again, she had to crane her neck to see the boy's clear black eyes. Alex hid the faint smile in his eyes. Alex. A boy behind him caught up, putting his arm around Alex's shoulder. He glanced at Emily, and before Alex could speak, Emily grabbed her school bag strap and rushed into the classroom as if running away. Who is she? The boy stared at Emily's back. Alex replied calmly. She's my classmate. The boy laughed. I know. Isn't she also my classmate? If she wasn't from this class, why would she be here at this time? Alex said. She's not yours. A strange feeling came over the boy. Before he could think about it carefully, Alex had already walked out of the classroom. The boy immediately dropped the thought and trotted after him. Alex, wait for me. Not many students from their junior high school came to the affiliated high school, and even fewer came to this key class, except for Emily and Alex. There were only 2 or 3 others. They weren't in the same class in junior high school and had hardly interacted except when they met in the exam room. Emily and Alex were the only classmates from junior high school in this class. Alex's seat was in the back row. Since entering high school, Emily seemed to have stopped growing. She was only 1 or 2 centimeters taller than she was in the second year of junior high school. There was almost half of the classroom between them, and they no longer had the chance to sit in the front and back rows. For Emily, high school life wasn't much different from junior high school life. Studying had never been difficult for her. She didn't care about the changes in the outside environment. As time passed day by day, apart from the boring study, some couples gradually formed in the class. Either openly or secretly, the openly dating couples were, of course, called by their parents and dealt with by the school as soon as possible. The secretly dating couples lived under the teasing eyes of their classmates. They had breakfast together before morning self-study, secretly held hands in the dark after evening self-study. And the sweetness grew secretly. Emily saw all this. She thought that these had nothing to do with her. She didn't feel repelled. Nor did she feel envious. Time flew by, fortunately. Neither she nor Alex became the protagonists in a love story. The sophomore year arrived as expected. Both of them chose the science stream, near the end of the freshman year. The class division list for the sophomore year was released in advance. Looking at the screen, Emily's mind was in a mess. For the first time, she couldn't sleep. When she went to school, there were dark circles under her eyes. Did you stay up late doing problems again? Her desk mate, a boy with thick-rimmed glasses, joked, but his tone seemed serious. Emily pursed her lips and didn't answer. During PE class, she sat under a tree, looking at the floating clouds in the sky. An orange basketball rolled to her feet with a rumbling sound. Emily curled her legs and lowered her eyelashes. Not looking at it. The sound of footsteps approached but didn't go away. They stopped right there. Emily looked up, stunned, and then quickly looked away. She put her chin on her knees. Her thick eyelashes cast a shadow on her pale face. The shadow was particularly obvious, setting off her dark eyes, making them look even deeper. Her lips were tightly pursed. As usual, she was reserved and distant, as if rejecting anyone's approach. Alex was holding the ball, under the tree shadow. His tall and slender figure was cast. He also remained silent. A gust of wind blew. Emily felt a familiar yet strange touch on the top of her head. It was just a moment. She was so surprised that she looked up, but it was already gone. In her sight, only Alex's slender back was left as he walked away, holding the ball. After the sophomore year, time seemed to pass even faster. Looking up from the pile of books, Emily would occasionally glance at the date. A month had passed in a flash. And no matter how much she looked back, that figure was no longer in the classroom. Emily stopped looking back. Instead, she stared out of the window for longer and longer. Her eyes were fixed on the other side of the teaching building. Across the corridor and through that window, the place where he was. Emily had few social interactions and didn't like going out. On her few days off, she mostly stayed at home. During school days, she was mostly in the classroom. She had a weak constitution. When she was a child, she had a serious illness and almost died. So her family had always spoiled her and never restricted her. But Emily rarely asked for anything. Unlike ordinary children, she was too mature. She would get what she wanted by herself. And as for those things she liked but couldn't get, she would just bury them in her heart and never tell anyone. She saw him again half a year later. At the autumn sports meeting, they were in different classes. Alex participated in the sprint. Emily was physically weak and terrible at sports. so she was assigned an easy logistical task. That it was a hot day. The playground was crowded with people. Emily squeezed through the crowd, moving slowly. She didn't like crowded places. After finishing her assigned task, she didn't want to do anything else and was about to pack up and leave. The broadcast announced the end of the men's 100-meter race. Her feet involuntarily moved towards the finish line. In a white shirt and black pants, as straight as a pine tree, with clean black hair. She saw him at a glance in the crowd. Suddenly, a girl stuffed a bottle of water into his hand. The girl's soft fingers were slightly cool. A completely different feeling from his hot and sweaty skin after intense exercise. Emily's eyes were fixed on her toes. She suddenly looked up, caught off guard. Meeting his eyes, her voice became soft. I forgot you're not in our class anymore. She even wanted to take the bottle of water back. Alex didn't let go when Emily touched his fingers. She quickly pulled her hand back as if she had touched a hot potato. Her cheeks turned pink. Alex had already unscrewed the bottle of water. His Adam's apple moved up and down slightly. The lines were very nice. The sunlight was blinding. Emily looked up, her eyes squinting slightly. Her hair and pupils were dyed a light, bright gold. The fluffy hairs on her forehead were clearly visible. I'll return it to you next time. Emily didn't dare to look him in the eye. She let out a soft, "Oh, Anne," with her toes touching the ground. Hesitated. It's just $1. No. You don't need to. Before Alex could say anything, the girl's figure had disappeared. Her steps were a bit flustered. As light as a deer crossing the water, Alex watched her disappear into the crowd, then retracted his gaze. The corners of his mouth twitched slightly, but the smile slowly disappeared. After winter came, time passed even faster. It snowed in South City. Emily was afraid of the cold and spent more and more time huddled in the classroom. Every day, she just buried herself in books and studied. As the days passed, a large stack of test papers and used draft papers piled up. The only chances for Emily to see Alex's name were on the red annual grade list and during the morning exercises on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. All the sophomore year students gathered on the playground. The two key science classes were next to each other. Alex stood at the end of the line. Every time when the students gathered or dispersed, Emily would secretly look at his back in the crowd. Alex's best friend was still in the same class as him. He was a boy who had been in the same school as them since junior high school. The two were similar in height and seemed to be next to each other even during the exercises. Emily withdrew her gaze, seeing his friend's hand familiarly placed on Alex's shoulder. She suddenly felt a bit resentful. Why? Why was he so lucky to be in the same class as Alex and be so close and familiar with him? She knew this feeling was ridiculous, but she still couldn't completely get rid of it. That day, she left early, standing in the front row of the line. She walked away quickly when the line dispersed. Her black school uniform blended into the crowd and disappeared in an instant. Tom saw that Alex was a bit absent-minded, which was rare. He patted Alex on the shoulder and asked, "What's wrong?" Alex retracted his gaze. Tom accurately noticed the disappearing figure in the crowd and said, "Why are you in such a hurry today? Found a new love?" He chuckled, glancing at Alex's expression. He saw that Alex's face darkened obviously. Since he met Alex, Alex had always been calm. It was rare to see him get annoyed. So Tom was in a good mood. Emily was his classmate in junior high school. Although they weren't familiar and not in the same class, he had heard her name many times from teachers and classmates. She was a very smart and intelligent girl, but also very hard to get close to when getting along with others. It was like there was an invisible veil between her and them. He even thought it was hard to imagine what such a girl would be like when she liked someone. The morning exercises in the second week were cancelled due to a severe thunderstorm. Then, the final exam arrived as scheduled when they entered the senior year of high school. The morning exercises were cancelled. Not having to do morning exercises was a privilege for senior year students. The students who had suffered from the morning exercises in the sophomore year finally had their days of relief. But Emily couldn't get excited. The senior year of high school came too quickly. As if it was just a blink of an eye, she lost the last chance to see him and secretly look at him without any pretext. Emily turned 18. The college entrance exam was approaching. The numbers on the countdown board next to the blackboard were getting smaller day by day. The day before the college entrance exam, the school gave everyone a day off. Emily had packed her books in advance and taken them home. Only an empty desk and chair were left in the school after the last class meeting. Emily carried her empty school bag and walked towards the school gate with the crowd. Someone called her name from behind. Emily turned around absent-mindedly. When she saw the face of the person behind her, her pupils dilated slightly. It was a boy with a smile on his face. "I'm Tom. We were neighbors in junior high school," Tom said with a bitter smile when he saw Emily's confused expression. "We were also in the same class in the freshman year of high school." "This is Alex." He pointed to the person next to him. As if he thought Emily had forgotten Alex's name as well, Emily looked up and glanced at him slowly. "Yeah." She didn't refute. It seemed that she really had forgotten everything and couldn't tell the difference between them, for some reason. The three of them walked together. Tom was talkative and chatted about various things to liven up the atmosphere. Emily responded, while Alex spoke the least and mostly just listened in silence. They reached the bus stop across from the affiliated high school. Tom didn't take the same bus as them. When bus 302 arrived first, Tom waved goodbye and got on the bus. Emily rented a house across from the school during high school, so she hardly ever took the bus home. Alex, however, didn't seem to be leaving. The two of them stood side by side in silence. Emily felt extremely embarrassed. Her fingertips tugged at the straps of her school bag, winding them around and around, which was her usual reaction when she was nervous. The tall boy stood beside her. His thin lips and sharp jawline made him look very handsome. But the faint smile that used to be on his face was gone. There was a sense of oppression. She didn't know where it came from. When bus 305 arrived, Emily nodded at him randomly as if she was saved and got on the bus. When she looked back, she was so shocked that her eyes widened. Alex actually followed her, meeting her gaze. The boy said two words calmly, "Going home." Emily lowered her head, feeling even more embarrassed and not daring to look at him. The bus got more and more crowded, and they stood very close. Finally, when the bus was almost at the stop, before Emily could breathe a sigh of relief, the driver suddenly hit the brakes. Emily didn't have time to scream. She slipped and fell into the boy's arms in front of her. After knowing each other for so many years, this was the first time Emily was so close to him. A faint citrus scent lingered at the tip of her nose. She didn't know if it was from his body wash or the collar of his clothes. It was very light. She suddenly saw a small red mole on his fair neck, hidden under the collar, above the collarbone. It was so close. Then there was another sudden break. She opened her eyes wide in panic, and her nose almost hit his chest. Alex reached out to support her head. Emily was stunned. Then, the boy in front of her suddenly smiled, with his long eyelashes drooping. His beautiful black eyes were filled with a faint smile. "Don't get hurt," he said softly, his voice hidden in the noise of the bus. Like a breeze blowing past her ear, Emily got off the bus as if running away, all the way home. Her heart was pounding. After that, until she got off the bus, he didn't say a word. And Emily didn't dare to look into his eyes. "I'm home. Good luck the day after tomorrow," she finally said. Biting her lip, the boy smiled slightly. "Yeah." The bus disappeared from sight. Emily stood on the road. It was a sunny day with a cloudless sky. She was 18 years old, in her senior year of high school, and was about to face the most important exam of her life the day after tomorrow, just a few minutes ago today. Although it was just an accident, she was hugged by a boy for the first time. It was the boy she had secretly had a crush on for 5 years and had grown up with. Emily's ears were burning, but she couldn't hold back the sweetness that welled up in her heart. The college entrance exam ended just like that. Emily didn't attend the class reunion after the exam. She went home, took a bath, changed into her pajamas, turned off her phone, pulled the curtains, and then started to sleep soundly with her head covered. Emily's parents didn't disturb her. The next day, she woke up, rubbed her forehead, and opened the curtains. It was already broad daylight. She had actually slept from 8 o'clock last night until noon, since entering high school. She couldn't remember how long it had been since she had such a long lie-in. Maybe it was because she didn't have the chance. Or perhaps she just didn't have the mood for it. Emily jumped out of bed casually, after turning on her phone. A message popped up. It was from a classmate she wasn't very familiar with. They had been desk mates for a few months. "Emily, do you want to come to school? The teacher is helping us check the answers and estimate our scores every year, in order to figure out the college entrance exam results of top students. The school would ask students to check their answers and estimate their scores by themselves before the official results came out." Emily didn't hesitate at all. "Thanks. But I don't need to. After getting enough rest. The next day, Emily bought tickets online, joined a tour group, and left with her backpack. She went to the Southwest. In fact, she didn't want to join the tour group at first, but her parents absolutely couldn't accept their just-turned 18 daughter traveling alone to such a faraway place right after graduating from high school. After an argument, both sides compromised and barely reached an agreement. Half a month later, Emily returned home. It was early July, the hottest time of the year. She stayed at home, reading books, drawing, and occasionally going out for a run or to play ball. Except that she no longer did schoolwork. Her life seemed no different from before, until one noon, when Emily was reading a novel at home. The door suddenly opened, and her mother's beaming face appeared. Her parents had both taken leave from work and come back early. She must have performed very well in the college entrance exam. Better than all her previous mock exams. After her mother finished talking on the phone with Emily's head teacher, she couldn't hide the smile on her lips. Your head teacher sent me the list of the top 10 students. Emily took the phone and quickly scanned it. When she caught a name, her lips pursed slightly. The names of several universities flashed through her mind, based on the information she had collected before. With Alex's scores and ranking, Emily quickly searched for the universities he was most likely to apply to in her mind. These were universities with good prospects, high-ranked majors, and favorable locations. If she were Alex, she would have a more than 80 chance of applying to these schools. She let out a soft breath and concealed the look in her eyes. Emily had already made up her mind about her college choices. With her high scores, she had a wide range of options. Her family didn't worry about this at all. Emily's life went on as usual. Before going to bed, her phone screen suddenly lit up at 11 o'clock at night. Emily frowned and picked up the phone. It was a reminder from QQ. She seldom surfed the internet and didn't use QQ much. She had only a few scattered friends, mostly from primary and junior high school. It was a friend request. When she saw the name in the note, Emily's drowsiness disappeared immediately. The summer heat was getting stronger, and the cicadas chirped all day long. Emily's parents didn't notice the change in their daughter's mood these days. They just thought it was the joy brought by her college entrance exam results. The day to fill out college applications came quickly. The day before filling out the applications, the school organized a guidance meeting. Emily had never planned to attend this meeting. She had already searched for the application process online and had contacted the universities she wanted to apply to. She just needed to enter the data into the computer on that day. In the evening, she received a message from Alex. Alex, are you going to the school meeting tomorrow? Emily paused for a long time. Yes, Alex. Wait for me after the meeting. Before going out the next day, Emily hesitated in front of the closet for a long time. She tried on almost all the summer clothes in her closet. Finally, she chose a knee-length plaid skirt. Her legs were straight and slender, because she had always worn long pants. Her skin was almost bloodless white. Emily stared at herself in the mirror, bit her lip, and finally changed into shorts. She wore a white t-shirt, shorts, and had a black ponytail. It was a very simple outfit. The guidance meeting was organized by class. It started at 3 o'clock in the afternoon and lasted until 5 o'clock. Emily sat in the last row, feeling drowsy. Her head was leaning against the wall, and she almost fell asleep. At 5:30. The meeting was announced over. She walked out with a headache. The corridor was full of students. A hand grabbed her wrist. Emily's eyes widened. She turned around and met his eyes. There seemed to be a faint smile in them. Alex seemed to have grown taller and thinner. His features were more distinct, although it had only been a month since they last met. He seemed to have changed somehow. Alex held her wrist and led her through the crowd in the corridor. Emily's face turned red. She remembered her trip to the Southwest. She had been running under the hot sun for half a month. Compared to the last time they met a month ago, would Alex think she had gotten darker? After leaving the corridor, Alex let go of her hand, feeling the warmth of his hand leave. Emily let out a soft breath. The sky was getting darker. The familiar teaching building was in sight. The new senior year students were having makeup classes. Just after the 8th class, students rushed out of the teaching building, just like they did a year ago, racing against time. Now, she and Alex were walking side by side in the sunset. Emily hesitated and then asked, "Did you look for me? For something?" Was he going to discuss the college application with her? Nothing. Alex stared at her for a moment, a smile on his lips. Emily didn't expect such an answer. She was stunned. "Oh," She didn't know what to say. After a while, she tried to find an excuse for him. Did you come to school for something? And just dropped by to see her. After all, with Alex's scores, she didn't think he needed to attend that guidance meeting for filling out college applications. Nothing to do. Every time Emily made a guess, he denied it. Emily bit her lip and stole a glance at him. Coincidentally, Alex was also looking at her. His dark pupils stared at her intently in the twilight. Emily was caught peeking. She had never been so embarrassed in her life. Her ears turned red, and she lowered her head. Looking only at her toes, Alex smiled gently, not minding at all. He even seemed a little pleased. Emily, if there's nothing else, I'll go back first, she said in a low voice. Alex asked, are you hungry? Emily, not hungry, she replied stiffly. Before she could finish, her stomach suddenly growled. Remembering that she hadn't eaten much for lunch because she was going out in the afternoon and had only drunk a few sips of water during the whole afternoon meeting. Her stomach was already empty. It made an embarrassing noise. The boy couldn't help laughing. His laughter was pleasant and spread in the gradually darkening twilight. Emily was both ashamed and annoyed. Her whole face turned bright red. Her wrist was grabbed again. There was still a hint of a smile in Alex's eyes. His gaze was gentle. Let's have something to eat first before going back. His eyes lingered meaningfully on her stomach, and Emily's ears became even redder. A sudden sense of frustration welled up in her heart. She thought that since the first time they met until now, she had liked the person in front of her for almost 6 years. She had never told anyone. Not even Alex himself, from their first conversation until now. She had always made a fool of herself in front of him. After all these years, she hadn't made any progress. How awful. After this summer vacation, they would both leave this small town and go their separate ways. They might never see each other again. The girl bit her lower lip tightly. The smile on Alex's face gradually disappeared. When Emily looked up, her eyes were red, and her thick black eyelashes were wet. Alex had seen many expressions of hers. When she smiled, frowned, had a blank face. When she secretly read novels during lunch break, and when she answered questions in class with confidence. He remembered every stage of her from the age of 13 to 18. During those years they grew up together. I'll go back first, Emily said, trying to calm herself down. She tried to keep her voice steady and held back her tears. Suddenly, something cold and cool touched her face. Emily looked up in surprise. The tall boy bent down. His slender fingers gently brushed her thin eyelids, wiping away her tears bit by bit. With a gentle and careful movement, he threw the wet tissue into the trash can beside him. Emily lowered her eyelashes, avoiding his gaze. Her cheeks were red, although she didn't make a sound. Her eyes were completely wet from the corners to the eyelids. So close, he could clearly see a small light brown mole under her right eye. It was wet with tears. Like a blooming flower, the boy gave a bitter smile and coaxed her. Looking down, don't cry. Emily rubbed her eyes, avoiding his fingers. I'm not crying. It seemed so strange and embarrassing to suddenly cry in front of him for no reason. She had always been considered a strange and hard-to-approach person, but she especially didn't want Alex to think of her that way. I made the girl I like cry before I even had a chance to confess. He sighed softly. Can I still continue? Emily's black eyes were still filled with tears. She was stunned, staring blankly at him with her lips slightly parted. Unable to say a word. Confess. So Alex had asked her out today to confess to someone. Seeing her stunned look, he seemed calm, but his heart was actually beating fast. The back of his ears was red. He stared at her intently, not wanting to miss any expression on her face. After all, he wasn't completely sure what Emily was thinking. He just wanted to be honest about his feelings. Who are you going to confess to? Emily asked. Her voice was a little hoarse, and her big eyes stared at him with a hint of annoyance. Why did he need to tell her when he was confessing to someone? Did he want to make her feel bad on purpose? Or was it because the person he was confessing to was their former classmate and he needed her to help? The more Emily thought about it, the angrier she got. Tears welled up in her eyes, like a small fountain. If you want to say it, go ahead. I can't help, she said stubbornly, biting her lower lip, understanding what she meant. Alex could only smile bitterly. She was so smart in study, but in some things, she was incredibly slow-witted. Even worse than some primary school students. It was almost dark. The evening self-study bell had rung. The path among the street trees was deserted. They had gone to school here for 3 years and had passed by countless times. The evening breeze was gentle. Emily was right in front of him, with dried-up tears, her cheeks red from crying, and her lips a clean light pink. The streetlights suddenly came on. Emily's eyes were stabbed by the light. She wiped the corners of her eyes with the back of her hand and gave him a glare. Her eyes were wet. Looking cute and aggrieved, his heart skipped a beat, and his heart rate increased, while Emily was wiping her tears. Suddenly, a soft touch came to her lips. The boy lowered his head, held her hand, and said with a half-smile and half-sigh, "You can help." He couldn't help lowering his head and touching her lips again. His clear voice became a little hoarse for the first time. He stared straight into her eyes and said, "Just say yes." Emily's mind went blank. Her hand unconsciously grabbed the corner of his clothes, the words Alex had said before. "I made the girl I like cry before I even had a chance to confess. Can I still continue?" Was he talking about her? It was so obvious. But she had misunderstood. Would Alex think she was so stupid? Emily almost wanted to kick herself for her stupidity a few minutes ago, seeing that she had come to her senses, with a red corner of her eye and an expression full of changes. Which was his favorite? Lively and cute look that he couldn't help kissing her on the cheek again. Then he took her hand and said, "Let's go. It's time to eat." Realizing what he had just done to her, Emily's face turned completely red. You, she stammered, unable to say anything. The sudden confession. And he had even gone a step further without waiting for her answer. And he had kissed her without permission. "I haven't agreed yet," she said, not letting go of Alex's hand. The boy slowed down his pace to match hers. Emily walked beside him, her voice a little serious that he turned his head and asked, "What? Not agreed." Emily's voice got smaller and smaller. She looked down at her toes. The kiss. She couldn't finish her sentence. And her whole face turned red. Shouldn't the process be that he confesses? She agrees. They get together, build their relationship, and then kiss at a suitable time when both of them agree. She still looked at the ground and said softly, "People say that if a couple kisses right after getting together without a solid emotional foundation, the probability of breaking up is 3 times higher than that of an ordinary couple." He smiled softly. "I've liked you for so many years." Alex reached out and pinched her cheek gently. No emotional foundation. Emily was stunned, her eyes wide open. The first time he saw her, the classroom was quiet. He stood at the classroom door with his school bag on his back. The girl by the window was leaning over the desk, reading a book. The sunlight fell on her long and thick eyelashes, turning them and her pupils into a gentle gold. She turned a page of the book and, for some reason, secretly smiled. He looked away. For some reason, that fleeting smile had fallen into his heart and he had remembered it for so many years. After that, he didn't know when, he became more and more concerned. His eyes unconsciously followed her. But he had never thought deeply about it. It was not until 4 years of getting along day and night that he truly realized his feelings. When he looked back in the classroom, he could no longer see her figure, being looked at by those clear eyes, which were not as gentle as usual, but dark in the twilight. Emily could clearly feel that her heart was pounding wildly in her chest. "I'm sure I liked you earlier." She turned her head away, muttering with a hint of dissatisfaction. Alex heard her and smiled. "You did." He didn't argue with her on this point. His black eyes focused on her, and his voice was soft, with a rare tenderness. "So what does my girlfriend want me to do to make it up to her?" Emily's heart was pounding. She suddenly stood on tiptoe, grabbed his neck. His handsome thin lips were right in front of her. She leaned up and kissed him hard, almost hurting herself. "I won't tell you," she said, her face red. She didn't dare to look at him and then ran away. From now on, they would be together every day, since he wanted to make it up. Then every day, he would love her a little more to make up for those long years of secret love that seemed endless.